You've been lied to, not maliciously. But every headline, every pop science video, every breathless tweet about quantum entanglement has been selling you a story that's more exciting than it is accurate. And in doing that, they've actually made it less interesting than it really is. Particles communicate faster than light. That's what they say. Telepathy, spooky, instant connection across the universe. And you nod because it sounds profound. But here's the thing. The actual story, the real one, the one the physics is telling, is stranger than telepathy. More unsettling. And to get there, I need to take something apart first. That word, communicate. Hold on to it. We'll come back to it. Let me start with something simple. I've got 2 coins. I flip them both at the same time, on opposite sides of the room. One lands heads. The other, every single time, lands tails. You'd think, okay, they must be connected somehow. One coin is telling the other what to do. But what if neither coin decided anything in the moment of the flip? What if the outcome was open, genuinely open, not hidden, not preloaded, just unresolved, until the moment you looked? That's not how coins work, obviously. But that's exactly how electrons work. And once you sit with that, really sit with it, the word communication starts to feel like the wrong tool for the job. Quantum mechanics doesn't tell you what a particle is doing when you're not watching it. It gives you probabilities. An electron spinning in a magnetic field isn't spinning up, isn't spinning down. It's in a superposition. Both possibilities coexisting unresolved. That's not a poetic way of saying we don't know. That's what the math says. The electron hasn't made up its mind. Nature hasn't decided yet. This is the part where people usually get impatient. Come on, surely it's one or the other and we just can't tell. That feels reasonable. That's what your intuition wants. But your intuition was trained on baseball and coffee cups, not subatomic particles. And here it leads you directly off a cliff. Here's the distinction that matters. Classical uncertainty. You flip a coin, it lands heads. You just haven't looked at it yet. The answer exists. You're just ignorant of it. Quantum superposition. The coin is genuinely, physically, mathematically in both states at once. And the act of looking doesn't reveal the answer. It creates it. That is not the same thing. Not even close. So when I say a particle is in superposition, I mean it. And once you have that, entanglement starts to make a different kind of sense. A weirder kind. The kind that keeps physicists up at night. Entanglement happens when 2 particles interact in a way that links their quantum states. After that, you can separate them across the room, across the planet, theoretically across the galaxy, and they remain correlated. Measure one, and the other instantly has the opposite outcome. Now, the first explanation you'll reach for is this. It's like a pair of gloves. I take one glove, put it in a box, ship it to Tokyo. You open your box, it's a left glove. You instantly know Tokyo has the right one. No mystery. The information was already there when they were packed. That's a clean explanation. Satisfying. And wrong. Here's why it's wrong. With gloves, the leftness was always there, baked in from the start. The glove in Tokyo was always the right one. You just didn't know it yet. That's hidden information. That's classical. But with entangled particles, the spin isn't determined until the moment of measurement. Not hidden. Not secretly preassigned. Genuinely undecided. Both particles in superposition correlated but unresolved until one is measured. And then the other one, wherever it is, snaps into the opposite state. Instantly. So you might say, okay, fine, maybe there are hidden variables. Secret instructions written into the particle at the moment of entanglement that we just can't access. Little hidden codes telling each particle what to do when the time comes. That's a completely reasonable hypothesis. It's what Einstein believed. And a physicist named John Bell figured out how to test it. Bell's insight was this. If hidden variables exist, there's a mathematical limit on how well 2 particles can be correlated across different measurement angles. He turned a philosophical question into an inequality, a testable prediction. Experiments ran the test, repeatedly, carefully, ruling out every loophole one by one. The particles violated Bell's inequality every time, meaning there are no hidden instructions. The universe is not running a secret pre-programmed script. The correlations are real, they're instant, and they cannot be explained by anything the particles knew ahead of time. The outcome genuinely wasn't there until measurement created it. Both of them. That's not a gap in our knowledge. That's the universe telling us something about itself. So now you're thinking it. I know you are. If measuring one particle instantly affects the other across any distance, why can't I use that? Send a signal. Flash a message. Contact someone faster than light? It's a fair question. It's the obvious question. Let's walk through it. You've got your entangled particle, you measure it. You get spin up. Your friend across the galaxy measures theirs. They get spin down. Perfect correlation every time. But here's the problem. You didn't choose to get spin up. That came out randomly. You had no control over the outcome. Neither did your friend. The result on their end is correlated with yours, but it's also random from their perspective. They see a string of ups and downs that looks like pure noise. To send a message, you need control. You need to decide what gets transmitted. You need to be able to say, this measurement means yes, that one means no. But nature doesn't give you the dial. You can't choose your outcome. You can only observe it. The correlation only becomes visible when you and your friend compare notes through a regular channel, a phone call, an email, something that travels at or below the speed of light. Without that classical comparison, neither of you can extract any information from the entanglement alone. The universe, I have to say, has an extraordinary sense of humor. It hands you this instant connection across any distance, wraps it in perfect correlation, and then makes it completely useless for communication by removing the one thing you need, control. This isn't an accident or a coincidence. It's deep. It's called the no communication theorem, and it's why entanglement doesn't violate Einstein's speed limit. Relativity says no signal can travel faster than light. No cause can outrun light to produce an effect. But what we have here isn't a signal. It's a correlation without a cause that travels. The universe is doing something that looks like faster than light influence, while simultaneously making sure you can never use it to send a letter. That's not a loophole in physics. That's physics being exactly as strange as it's allowed to be, right up to the line, without crossing it. Now, I want to be honest with you here. I've explained the mechanism. I've told you what happens, what doesn't happen, and why. But I haven't told you why. The deep why. Because nobody knows. The measurement problem. That moment when superposition collapses, when the unresolved becomes resolved, quantum mechanics doesn't explain it. The theory tells you the probability distribution before measurement. It tells you the definite outcome after. The moment in between, the transition itself, is just assumed. It's not derived. It's not explained. It's a black box sitting in the middle of the most precisely tested theory in the history of science. Nobody agrees on what's happening there. And this isn't a minor footnote. It's the central unresolved question of quantum foundations. There's the Copenhagen interpretation. Don't ask what's happening before measurement. Just use the math to predict outcomes and stop trying to picture an underlying reality. Shut up and calculate. It works. Feynman himself sometimes said something close to this, not because the question isn't interesting, but because the question might not be answerable in the way we want. Then there's many worlds. Every measurement outcome happens. Every possibility branches into a separate version of reality. There's no collapse, just an ever-branching tree of universes. Each one real, each one containing a version of you who got a different result. It sounds insane. The math is consistent. That's the uncomfortable part. And here's what I want you to notice. Both interpretations are consistent with every experiment ever run. Same data, completely different pictures of reality. The experiments are finished. The debate about what they mean is very much alive. There's also the question of simultaneity. When we say the second particle instantly responds to the measurement of the first, what does instantly mean? Relativity tells us there's no universal now for events separated in space. Two observers moving relative to each other will disagree about which measurement happened first. So, when exactly does the second particle respond? The question might not have a well-defined answer. It might be that asking when is the wrong move entirely. These aren't rhetorical flourishes. These are genuine open problems. Anyone who tells you quantum mechanics is fully understood is either confused or oversimplifying. The predictions are perfect. The understanding, what's actually happening underneath, is very much a work in progress. Let me tell you what I think is the most important thing here. Not the most dramatic, the most important. People reach for the word telepathy because they want the universe to be mysterious in a human way. Minds connecting. Consciousness reaching across space, something that maps onto our experience of what a connection feels like. It's a natural impulse, but it gets the direction exactly backward. Entanglement doesn't suggest that particles have something like minds that reach across space. It suggests something more radical, that space itself might not be the fundamental separator of things that we think it is. Think about what locality means. The assumption baked into almost all of classical physics and into most of our intuitions about reality is that separate things in separate places do their own thing. An object here only influences objects nearby through direct contact or fields that propagate through space. The world is made of local pieces that interact locally, cause and effect unfold at finite speeds. Bell's theorem and the experiments that followed showed that this picture is wrong. Not incomplete, wrong. You cannot explain the correlations we observe by any theory that is both local and real. Either the world isn't made of separate local pieces, or the outcomes aren't determined by pre-existing properties, or both. There's no third option that saves classical intuition. What we're left with is a universe that appears to be non-local in some deep sense. Not that particles send signals faster than light, they don't, but that the very categories we use to separate things, here and there, this particle and that particle, might be approximations. Useful ones, the right ones for everyday life, but approximations nonetheless. Einstein wanted a universe of local realities, each thing doing its own thing in its own place, clean, intuitive, separable. The experiment said, that universe doesn't exist. Ours is something else, something that doesn't have a name we're fully comfortable with yet. We've been doing physics for a few hundred years now. We're quite good at it. We can predict the behavior of an electron to 12 decimal places. We can build quantum computers that exploit entanglement to do calculations classical machines can't touch. We use entangled particles in quantum cryptography to create encryption keys that are physically impossible to intercept without detection, because any measurement disturbs the system, and the disturbance is detectable. We've turned quantum weirdness into technology, and we still don't know what any of it means. That's not a failure. That's the actual situation, and I think it's worth saying out loud without embarrassment. Richard Feynman, and I find this more reassuring than almost anything else, said openly that nobody understands quantum mechanics, not as a cop-out, as a precise, honest statement. The theory works. The foundations are genuinely mysterious. Both things are true simultaneously. That's the real story. Not that particles whisper to each other across the cosmos in some mystical telephone call. Not that consciousness creates reality or that the universe is watching us. Those are stories we tell because the real thing is too strange for our narrative instincts to hold comfortably. The real thing is this: two particles interact, and from that moment forward, they share a quantum state that doesn't live in either particle separately. It lives in the relationship between them. Measure one and the other responds, not because a signal traveled, but because they were never fully separate in the first place. The boundary we drew between them was a convenience, a fiction that works until you test it carefully enough. And when you test it carefully enough, you find that the universe is not a collection of separate objects bumping into each other through empty space. It's something more like a single entangled whole, where the separateness we see is a feature of scale and approximation, and at the bottom, connection is the default, and isolation is what needs explaining. That is not telepathy. It's not mysticism. It's not magic. It's stranger than all of those, because it's true. And we don't fully understand it yet. I find that not frustrating, beautiful. There's a frontier here, not metaphorically, literally. The edge of what the human species knows, and we found it not by staring at the stars or meditating on the nature of consciousness, but by doing careful, stubborn, unglamorous experiments in laboratories, testing tiny particles in magnetic fields, checking the math, running the numbers again. That's how you find the real mystery. Not by deciding in advance that the universe must be strange in the way you want, but by following the evidence wherever it actually leads, even when it leads somewhere that breaks the intuitions you walked in with. The particles don't communicate. They're not separate enough to need to. Think about that for a while.